Okay, welcome to episode 6
Being Love podcast.
of Being Love podcast.
We should have a little song to go with that.
We should.
Being
We will.
Love.
We'll do that. I was about to say liberated in love, but we just had that recent name change because it was sort of inspired by this mushroom trip we had. Very small dosage of it, but where we just wanted to call it Being Love instead of liberated in love. And it's kind of a little like, it says more about the kind of direction that we want to steer this thing into. More of an experiential kind of feeling.
Yeah, liberated in love, it marks almost like the beginning of something where, you're finally breaking free of whatever was before you, whatever you were experiencing before, and what comes after that, you know? You need something more neutral that's gonna be where it can be well grounded. You know what I mean? And being is that, right? There is no end, beginning. It's just
being. It is. All right. And so let's talk about cannabis. I know we've been wanting to do an episode on cannabis for a little while. And we're going to talk about how you can build a relationship with cannabis, with the being that is cannabis. And so we were just talking a little bit before we started recording, but I was asking you about how your relationship to cannabis has changed, how it was before these experiences and how it is now and how it's going in general.
Yes. I was introduced to cannabis at an early age, middle school. Everybody began to smoke cannabis, and so I definitely did it for recreational use, experimentation. I enjoyed it, but definitely I wasn't even familiar with spiritual work or development, so it never crossed my mind to pay attention to what kind of feelings were rising within me during these when I would smoke. It's allowed me to get very real with myself and almost be disconnected from Kayla, and what I thought I'm just becoming more aware of what I thought I was and how much attachment I have to that, and also realizing the attachment I have to what I want to become, and then getting stressed out if I'm not there yet and whatnot. So just a lot of consciousness work that I'm happy has taken place.
For me too, I had a bad relationship with cannabis, like right off the bat, almost. I first smoked cannabis when I was 20 years old, and it was kind of a choice for me to do it, where like I had been become interested in using drugs sometime when I was like 19 or 20, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start. And so I did. I smoked, but it quickly just became this thing that I was using just so I could eat more or enjoy my food more or laugh a little bit more. And it started to affect me in negative ways pretty soon after using it that way. It started to like give me a lot of anxiety and a lot of like sort of a paranoia, and like instead of relaxing me, it was making me really tense and really like on edge. And so I stopped smoking cannabis I took about a year break, a little bit less than a year, but about a year. And during that time I reevaluated my relationship to cannabis, and I wanted to approach cannabis this time with a sense of respect for the cannabis, for the being in cannabis, and
the spirit in cannabis.
Yeah, there's a spirit there, and if you are respectful of it and you use it for a more conscious reason, or just a deeper reason than eating food or laughing, it will show you a lot of stuff, and it has the potential for a lot of like healing to take place within you, or just a lot of introspection that might need to be done. And so the way I approach it is to make time for this thing that I'm going to do, which is to smoke cannabis. And so what I do is like, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to smoke right now, and I'm going to clear like my schedule for like the next 2 hours, just so I can experience the high that cannabis will give you, and then experience all these different sort of ways of perceiving the world that it'll show you. It's pretty interesting when you just smoke and you do something that you always do every single day. It could be anything, like just making coffee, or washing the dishes, or even going to the gym. And on this, like under the influence of cannabis, you can start to see different things will be pointed out to you. Maybe it'll be just like the way something sounds as you do it, or the way something feels as you do it. Instead of just normally how you would do a task because this task is good for you, or this task needs to be done right now for whatever reason. Instead, it kind of becomes a whole experience, where you can really learn from something as simple as washing the dishes. You can learn from that experience. And cannabis isn't necessary to have these experiences, but it can help you
see things differently
if you are trapped in those mental concepts.
Yeah. Repeatedly, day to day.
Yeah.
Definitely. So what it looks like is like cannabis is its own frequency for sure. And so when you take cannabis, you're aligning to everything that comes with that frequency, as opposed to the frequency of, not being influenced by any one of those substances. And then because you're aligning to that frequency of the cannabis, you're able to like tap into like different information that is carried on that frequency. And that's why you have different awarenesses as you're washing the dishes and moving through the house, and going to work, and etc.
And I don't want to make it seem that you need to become dependent on these sort of substances to like perceive life in a different way, but I'm just recognizing the importance of seeing life in different ways. And we were talking a little bit about how cannabis will change after psychedelics. After you kind of do a heavier psychedelic, the way cannabis feels and kind of relates to you will be different, at least in my experience and yours.
It did, yeah.
And so it's like this: when you take something strong enough, like mushroom or like LSD, it's going to overpower you. It's going to overpower your personality, your ego, to make you forced to let go of your ego. It'll force you to let go of your ego enough to be open to see all these different perspectives in a way that cannabis won't normally do, unless you maybe eat like a super strong edible. But cannabis won't normally take over your ego. You have to be able to lay your ego down at cannabis feet in order for that. And that'll happen after, for me, it happened after psychedelics. Psychedelics was something that released me from my ego in such a like profound way that I continue to pursue that releasing of certain personality traits and certain perspectives of life. And so after my psychedelic use, I started to see that everything had being. Every object, every plant, everything you can see and perceive with your eyes has a being. And so the next time that I smoked cannabis after psychedelics, I came to it as it was a being. And as soon as I saw it for what it's worth, for its pure being, and I respected and I loved that being, it showed itself to me for the first time. And it showed herself as a friend, as someone who's here to help me, a wise, old woman who can help me throughout life, I feel like. Do you want to share how your relationship to cannabis has changed before and after
psychedelics?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't been at this for very long. It's only been less than like 4 or 5 months. So
yes,
all I know is that I have noticed a lot of change in that time. And
a lot of change happens fast with these kind of substances.
Quickly, it's interesting how you just go straight to it, because it's like these plants, it's in their nature to be connected to all things, right? With the roots and the soil and the weather and how that all works together.
Yeah.
But you can really see how I feel like these beings are more connected to their like community, or their their own not ecosystem, but their own web of like relationships that they use them as soon as they enter our bodies. Yeah. They're still connected to all those different parts that that work together. And us humans, because we're so disconnected, like it's more work for us to connect to each other and connect to like what's going on in the world, because we're so disconnected. So being on cannabis, it's like you're not just like working with that one being, you're working with the beings that are working with that being.
Yes.
That's what it feels like, and that's why they're so powerful.
I believe that.
And you tap into so many different little insights when you are experiencing this drug.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's really cool to experience, and I recommend people do it this way. And just watch the way you're doing cannabis, and when you smoke cannabis, what are you going to do, and what do you do? Try to take a step back and do it in a different approach, kind of like this, and just
with yourself probably would be a great way to start, just usually. By yourself. And
I would like to hear about that, honestly.
Definitely.
Like, I love talking about this sort of stuff, and some people reach out to me, and I tell them my experiences, and they share me theirs, and it's really nice. It's really nice to have people like that who are interested in the same things
and share their findings. It's like we're all little scientists. You don't have to be working for NASA or some crazy laboratory. We've been using our
cowboy accents,
southern accents. That's what you heard just now.
That's for another day.
I'm sorry. What I was saying was that we're all our own little mad scientists. And we're constantly hypothesizing and just experimenting. So like, let's share our differences and similarities, but at the end of the day, it's all just to share our experiences.
Just to share. Just to share our perceptions of the world and of substances and of whatever. And that's the main driver for this podcast. We want to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals, and we want to sort of bring certain visions into reality here. And that's what we're doing.
By sharing the things,
by taking actions.
Taking action, sharing everything that has helped us thrive, right?
Yeah. And that's really all we wanted to say today. This is episode 6 of Being Love podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys later.
Being Love podcast.
It's great.